"Clean this up." The voice dripped with ice. "And since you're so slow with that mop, use your shirt. I want to see this floor shine before our guests arrive." Brian Sterling, the manager, smirked as he looked down at the old janitor. The young receptionist, Maria, gasped from behind her desk, her hand flying to her mouth. But what Brian didn't know, what no one in that shiny Austin lobby knew, was that the old man kneeling before him was about to change his life forever. For the past month, the man they knew only as Art was just a ghost in a gray uniform. At 68 years old, Arthur Washington moved slowly through the halls of Innovate Corp., his cart squeaking a lonely tune in the late hours. He emptied trash cans, polished floors, and cleaned windows, all while observing. No one knew that he was the silent founder of this entire billion-dollar company. Years after retiring, he heard whispers that the culture he built on respect was rotting from the inside. So he created a new identity, put on a uniform, and came to see the truth for himself. His focus quickly landed on Brian Sterling, a regional manager with a perfect smile and a cruel heart. Brian, at 35, was the picture of corporate success. He wore suits that cost more than Arthur's monthly rent and treated anyone he saw as beneath him with a special kind of disdain. He was particularly harsh with the cleaning staff, the security guards, and the receptionists. He saw them not as people, but as part of the furniture, and dirty furniture at that. There was one small light in the building, Maria Garcia. A 22-year-old receptionist, she was new and still had a kindness that the corporate world hadn't yet beaten out of her. Every morning, she offered Arthur a warm "Good morning, Art," and sometimes she would leave a cup of coffee for him by the janitor's closet. She saw the person, not the uniform. Arthur noticed her kindness, and it gave him a small sliver of hope. Brian's cruelty wasn't a secret. He seemed to enjoy making examples of people. One afternoon, he publicly berated Arthur for a barely visible smudge on the glass of the main entrance. He made the old man clean it 3 times while employees walked by, averting their eyes, too afraid to intervene. Brian's voice echoed in the large lobby, each word a little whip crack against Arthur's dignity. "Do you even know how to do your job?" Brian had said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe we need to find someone whose eyes still work." Arthur simply nodded and cleaned the glass again, his face a calm mask. But inside, he recorded every word, every sneer, every act of disrespect. He was a judge disguised as a janitor, and the trial was well underway. Maria saw these moments, and her heart ached. She tried to counter Brian's poison with her own small acts of kindness. She would tell Arthur he was doing a great job or offer to help him with a heavy trash bag. She saw the person, not the uniform. Arthur noticed her kindness, and it gave him a small sliver of hope. Each time, Brian would see this from his glass-walled office, and a frown would deepen on his face. He despised any sign of familiarity between what he considered different classes of people. Then came the announcement that sent a wave of anxiety through the office. A special representative from the main board was coming for a surprise inspection. This was the moment Brian had been waiting for. A good impression could mean a promotion to the national headquarters in New York. A bad one could stall his career indefinitely. Suddenly, his usual cruelty sharpened into a frantic obsession with perfection. He pushed everyone to their limits. The office had to be spotless, flawless. His pressure fell heaviest on Arthur. He followed the old man around, pointing out imaginary dust and non-existent scuffs. Arthur worked diligently, never complaining, his calm demeanor seeming to infuriate Brian even more. How could this old man not be terrified of him? It was an insult to his authority. A moment of false hope came a day before the visit. A senior vice president, a man who had been with the company for years, stopped Arthur in the hallway. "Art, I just want to say, this building has never looked better. You do incredible work," he said with a genuine smile. Brian overheard this from his office, and his face turned a shade of red. The praise, directed at a lowly janitor, felt like a personal attack. That jealousy simmered until the next morning, the morning of the board representative's visit. The office was buzzing with nervous energy. Brian, dressed in his most powerful suit, paced the lobby like a caged tiger. He was sweating, checking his reflection in every shiny surface. He needed everything to be perfect. Everything. Then, as he walked past the reception desk, clutching a ridiculously expensive latte, he stumbled. Or at least it looked like a stumble. The coffee cup flew from his hand, splattering dark, hot liquid across the pristine white marble floor, just feet from the entrance. It was a disaster, a deliberate one. All eyes turned to him. He didn't even flinch. His eyes scanned the room and landed on Arthur, who was quietly polishing a brass railing nearby. The manager's face twisted into a mask of pure rage. He pointed a trembling finger at the mess. "Art, get over here, now!" he boomed. Arthur calmly put down his cloth and walked over. He looked at the puddle, then at Brian. He knew this was a performance, a power play. He was the chosen victim. That's when Brian delivered his cruelest line yet. "Clean this up," he said. The employees who had gathered to watch held their breath. Arthur reached for the mop on his cart. "No," Brian snapped, kicking the mop away. "Not with that. You're too slow. I want it clean now." He paused for dramatic effect, a sick smile playing on his lips. "Use your shirt. I want to see this floor shine." The collective gasp was audible. People looked at each other in disbelief. This was a new low, even for Brian Sterling. To force a man old enough to be his grandfather to kneel and wipe the floor with his own clothes was beyond cruel. It was monstrous. Arthur looked down at his simple gray shirt, then back at Brian's hate-filled eyes. His own hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from a deep, controlled anger. He slowly, deliberately knelt down. The marble was cold against his old knees. He was about to do it, to play this humiliating scene to its end, to gather the final piece of evidence he needed. But then a clear voice cut through the silence. "Mr. Sterling, that's enough!" All heads turned. It was Maria, the young receptionist. She had stepped out from behind her desk, her body shaking, but her eyes blazing with defiance. "He is a person, not your doormat. This is unacceptable." Brian's face turned from red to purple. He was stunned that someone so insignificant would dare to challenge him, especially today. He spun around to face her. "What did you just say to me?" he hissed. "You're fired, Garcia. You're fired. Pack your things and get out of my sight. You are finished in this city." He then turned back to Arthur, his victory seemingly complete. "Now," he said, his voice dangerously low, "clean it." Just as Arthur's hands reached for the hem of his shirt, the main glass doors of the lobby swished open silently. In walked a woman in her early 40s, dressed in a powerfully elegant business suit, flanked by two serious-looking men. She radiated an aura of command that made Brian's authority look like a child's tantrum. This had to be the board representative. Brian's face instantly transformed. The snarl was replaced by a wide, sycophantic smile. He rushed forward, hand outstretched. "Welcome, welcome to Innovate Corp. Austin," he gushed. "Please excuse the minor disturbance, just dealing with some incompetent staff. It's all under control." The woman, Evelyn Washington, completely ignored his outstretched hand. Her sharp eyes scanned the lobby and stopped. They widened in shock and then hardened into cold fury as they locked onto the sight of the old man kneeling on the floor. "Dad," she said, her voice cutting through the lobby silence, "what is he doing to you?" If the building had been silent before, it was now a vacuum. You could hear a pin drop on the marble floor. Brian Sterling's jaw fell open. His smile evaporated, replaced by a ghastly pale mask of confusion and terror. Dad? Did she say Dad? His mind scrambled, trying to make sense of the word. He looked from the powerful woman to the old janitor and back again. It wasn't possible. Slowly, with a grace that defied his age and his uniform, Arthur Washington rose to his feet. The wariness was gone from his eyes, replaced by a sharp, calculating intelligence. He brushed off his knees and looked directly at Brian. "Just observing the company culture, sweetheart," Arthur said to his daughter, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable weight of authority. "And I must say, I have seen quite enough." Brian began to stammer, words failing him. I don't understand. Dad, you're his—" "I am Arthur Washington," the old man stated, his voice resonating with a power no one had ever heard from him. "I founded this company 30 years ago in my garage. I stepped away, but I never truly left. I came back to see if the values I built this company on, dignity, respect, integrity, were still alive." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the terrified employees before landing back on Brian. "In you, Mr. Sterling, I have found my answer." Arthur then, with perfect recall, listed every instance of Brian's abuse he had witnessed over the past month. The public scolding over the smudge, the condescending remarks, the threats to other staff, and finally, the vile act of ordering a man to clean with his own shirt. With each word, Brian seemed to shrink, the color draining from his face until he was as white as the marble beneath his feet. Then Arthur turned and pointed a steady hand toward Maria, who was standing by her desk, trembling and certain she was about to be unemployed forever. "But I also found this," Arthur said, his voice softening. "I found a young woman who, with nothing to gain and everything to lose, showed more courage, more leadership, and more human decency in 2 minutes than you have shown in your entire career." He looked at the 2 men who had entered with his daughter. "Security," he commanded, "please escort Mr. Sterling off the premises. His access is revoked, effective immediately. Have his personal effects mailed to him." Brian finally broke. He fell to his knees, the ultimate irony lost on him. "Mr. Washington, please, I didn't know. I can change. It was a mistake." But Arthur just shook his head. "The mistake was thinking your title gave you the right to dehumanize another person. It's not about who you knew I was. It's about how you acted when you thought I was nobody." The security guards took a stunned Brian by the arms and dragged him away, his pathetic pleas echoing and then fading. Arthur then addressed the silent crowd. He introduced himself properly, explaining why he had gone undercover. A wave of awe and relief washed over the employees. Finally, he walked over to Maria. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Young lady," he said gently, a warm smile spreading across his face, "you are not fired." Tears of relief welled in her eyes. "In fact, I am in need of a new executive assistant, someone with a strong moral compass. The job is yours if you want it. Your first task will be to help me rewrite the employee code of conduct.
we'll start a new chapter titled Dignity and Respect for All. Overwhelmed with emotion, Maria could only nod, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Thank you."
The lesson we learned from this is that a person's true worth is never defined by their job title or their uniform, but by their character. A suit can't hide a rotten heart, and a janitor's overalls can't hide a king's spirit. In the end, how you treat people, especially those you believe have no power, is the only legacy that truly matters. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more real-life narratives. See you in the next story.